This is the Cameron Journal Podcast. It's a place where we talk about important things. It's a place where we bring a little slice of the news to you. It's a place where we do important things, have important conversations. It's also things that I like to talk about. My name is Cameron Cowan, and this is the Cameron Journal Podcast. Today on the Cameron Journal Podcast, we have Glenn Gardone. He is he's a chocolatier of sorts. He sells these wonderful things called red chocolate. And I was privileged to get some and try some out. And they were incidentally delicious. But we're going to talk about chocolate. We're going to talk about business, all this type of thing. It'll be very exciting. Welcome, Glenn, to the Cameron Journal Podcast.
Well, Cameron, thank you for having me. It's greatly appreciated.
You're welcome. So I am very excited to have you on. I want to talk about business stuff and all this type of thing, but let's talk your current business first, red chocolate. You sent me a bunch of bars of chocolate in the great packaging, like lint flat with the cardboard. It's very easy to store and all that type of thing. I have to confess, most of your selections are dark chocolate, which I find super bitter, and I just can't do it. It's gonna be friends and family, but I did
Good.
find the milk chocolate, which I could do, and the white chocolate, which was okay. And it was very delicious. Surprisingly enough. And the thing people don't know that I will say first for you before we get into your whole thing about it is, the thing about this chocolate is it's low calorie. They use an alternative sweetener called stevia, which has been around for a while. And back in the day, so longtime listeners know I have been fat forever and ever and ever, amen. And so I've tried all sorts of different low calorie things as the years have gone by before I just gave up and quit caring. And most of them, like, there's always some like funny, weird aftertaste or whatever have you. And I was really impressed that your stuff didn't have such of a funny, weird aftertaste. So that was, I think, quite an achievement. And I think it's just really cool, and it's packaged well, and the shape is a lot of fun. And so why don't you tell us about, now that I've gone on forever about this whole boring thing, why don't you tell me about red chocolate and how you got started and all that sort of thing?
You got it. You got it. So, red chocolate, as you were saying, is a European crafted chocolate. It's made in our facility in Europe, and we ship it over here. Every couple of weeks we get containers here in the U.S. We've been around about 20 years, and right now we're in about 28 different countries. We came to the U.S. about 3 years ago. So it's 3 years this past October is when we actually launched. So going on almost 3.5 now. And the idea behind red chocolate, as you said, people call us healthy chocolate. I hate that term because there's no such thing as healthy chocolate. Chocolate is chocolate is chocolate. What we like to do is we like to call it smart indulgence, because if you just eat chocolate, you're going to gain weight. And if you want to indulge, which me personally, I'm an unapologetic chocoholic. I'll be the first one to say that. And what I like to do is I like to have, like I said, smart indulgence. You can enjoy and enjoy accordingly. So what we do is we, as you said, have no
And the
added
chocolate
sugar.
bars break apart into convenient squares, so you can only it's easier to just be like, I'll have three, break it off, and away you go. And I that's one of the things I love about Lindt chocolate bars, because that's like the only real sweet stuff I keep in the house, because I don't have the stuff around because I don't eat it and it goes bad and I end up throwing it away, so I don't buy it. But I
Right.
love the things like you can just like break off three and off you
Mhm.
go. And yours is exactly the same way. So I liked that from the very start. So I totally get that.
No, absolutely. And so, like, where you'll find lint, we'll use palm oils. Palm oils is a very cheap substitute. We don't use any palm oils in any of our products. So there, even within European chocolates, there's a real big difference with chocolate. And so when you get red, like you were saying, yeah, it's gluten free, it's kosher. We're a certified green facility. We do things because we want to, not because it's what the consumer is asking. And I'll be brutally honest with you, everything we do because we do it for the better of red and what we as a company believe in. So we don't do the hot thing of the month or the hot thing of the year. We do it because we think it's right. We right now here in the US, we capture all of our carbon footprint and we actually report everything back to Europe. So it's a global footprint. Our goal is to be completely carbon neutral by the year 2026. We're going to hit it by 2025, but our goal is 2026. And what we want to do, and best way to explain eating chocolate is like being on a journey. The idea being that you can enjoy yourself, yet you don't have to have that refined sugar because refined sugar is terrible for your system. It's terrible for your immunity. Look it up. You could see the millions of pages that have been written on it. And so what we do is, again, we use what's called melon sugar. It's actually not stevia. It's actually called melon sugar. And what we do is, when you bite into a watermelon, that juice that runs down your chin, those are
Mhm.
natural sugars. So God forbid if you were diabetic or, again, looking to from a health perspective, you can enjoy this chocolate. So whether you're chocoholic like myself and you just want to enjoy chocolate, red's perfect for you. If you've got some type of health issue or, from a fitness perspective, you want to keep away from the refined sugars, red's for you. And really, that's how we've been able to grow from a startup here in the US 3 years ago to over 15,000 store doors across the United States.
Yeah. So how did you end up bringing red chocolate to America?
Well, I've been in the food business for over 30 years. So, like, I'm ex Kellogg, ex Pepsi. I spent the first 15 years of my career with really big companies. And I did it. That was part of my journey. I wasn't one of those people that, at 18 years old, found out what their passion was and ran forward with it. That wasn't me. I wasn't one of the lucky ones, as I like to say. I caught my passion in my 40s. And so I had the opportunity. I knew Red because I traveled the world for my businesses. And I knew Red, but I knew the brand. I didn't know the ownership group. It were owned by two families who are both master chocolate makers. And I just fell in love with the brand. So I had actually been leading a team and we had sold a company. And I wasn't sure what I was going to do next, Cameron. I really didn't know. I didn't know if I was going to take a break. I was flying 200,000 miles a year. I was all over the place. I was exhausted. I'm not going to lie to you. And so I was at home about 2 weeks after we had sold the organization and closed the deal. And I got a call from representatives of the ownership team. And they said, "Hey, look, your name's popped up a whole bunch of times. Would you mind meeting with us? We're looking to come into the US." And I said, "Sure, I'll meet with anybody. I'll talk to anybody. If I can help, great. If I can't, maybe I know a name of somebody who can help you." So I drove up to New York, met with the team. It was a 4 hour meeting. I spent the first 3.5 hours explaining to them why they shouldn't come in the US because they had a gorgeous business. Again, doing what they want to do, doing it profitably. I've seen a lot of great companies come to the US and absolutely fail and bankrupt themselves. And I didn't want to see that happen with this company. So I told him, and the person who became my boss after about 3.5 hours, she said to me, "So are you done?" I said, "Yeah, I'm done." And she said, "Well, so when do you want to start?" And I looked at her, I said, "You're either crazy or you don't know something, or you know something I don't know. Either way, this could be fun. What the hell? Let's do it." And so I spent 6 months putting in the infrastructure, Americanizing the company, so to speak. And then we launched October of 2019, 5 months before a global pandemic. So it could have dropped us. It could have dropped us completely. But due to the fact I've got an extremely passionate team, we've been able to be very successful and the acceptance of the American consumer. Because no matter how great your team is, no matter how wonderful the packaging is, the American consumer's got to look at it and go, yeah, yeah, this makes sense for me. I want to keep this in my life.
No, that is very true. And you're right, there's a lot of companies that have kind of come to the US and not done so well. Some of them are quite legendary. Tesco trying to come to America, that did not go well at all.
No.
Um and the other one I always laugh about is the seeming lack of success for any European car maker that's not German in
Mhm.
America, which I think is interesting. The Germans do very well here. The
They
French
do.
have not been able to figure it out. They tried so many times. No, people just don't want their cars.
Well,
Like,
it's funny too.
and they're about to do it again because Peugeot just bought Fiat Chrysler.
I know, it's funny because, even with us being a European company, I've spent many long days explaining to the organization that this may work great in the UK, but in the US, it's going to bomb. And
Yeah.
so I think what happens is a lot of times people come in from their home country and they think, well, this is the message we did there and it works so well. Let's do the same message here. And not only does the message fail, the delivery fails, and then it's up to the product. And a lot of times the product fails. And so that's always been a situation, like you said, where we've seen a lot of companies that do really well outside of our borders and then come in here and bomb. And Tesco's a
Yeah.
perfect
Yeah,
example.
what do you think is the biggest challenge you've had to overcome from an organizational standpoint to get them to understand the American market?
For me, it was explaining to them how that we deliver the message and what the message needed to be consisting of. I'll give you an example. When I first came on, so when you go to Europe, everything is non-GMO. They're not allowed to work with GMOs. And so when I brought it in, again, working on the packaging, getting it ready for our standards, I was telling the team, look, we've got to get non-GMO on the package. I've got to get the certification. I need everything. They're like, well, why? Everything's non-GMO. I'm like, no,
Not
not in the United
here.
States, not in the US. So it's those kind of things. And it's when you work with a team, there's two types of teams. You could have a team that says, oh, okay, I get it. Yeah, you're the leader. Let's follow. You're going to do what's right for the organization. Doesn't mean you can't ask questions and you can't disagree, but you understand that leadership role and how you're trying to do better. And then you have the other team that wants to fight you every step of the way. And you know what? We've both been with both of those same groups. So, luckily for me at the Red, within our Red family, we all try to work together.
Yeah, what do you think? I last year I had on a guy who was head of operations for Goodyear Tire and then
Mhm,
moved and worked for Pirelli Tire in Milan for 5 years. What's
mhm.
the biggest difference between Kellogg and PepsiCo?
The biggest difference really is the market delivery with the messaging. Because if you PepsiCo is what's called a DSD organization. They could launch a product and it could be in store in 60 days across the nation because they have the ability to take the product directly to the store. Where,
Yes.
somebody like a Kellogg has to work within the system, or somebody like a Red, we work within the system through the warehousing system and all. The biggest issue is always just being able to get the proper message out. You could think of New Coke. Think about how massively that bombed. Yet, there was a lot of smart people around that table and a lot of money invested in New Coke, and it bombed. So, I mean, you could look back at many different ways. I happen to have the opportunity to be part of the team on Snapple, and I remember when we had Wendy the Snapple later, Howard Stern, and Rush Limbaugh. And you really had, the entire, piece covered because people either love Rush or they hate him, people either love Howard or they him, and everybody loves Wendy Snappily. I mean, she's just, a wonderful person, a great ambassador. So I think it's really usually the message, and it's the message that you deliver here in the US is completely different than the message you deliver in Canada, in the UK, in Latin America. And a lot of times people try to take that same thing and just force it down the consumer store. And the consumer says, no, 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 I disagree. I disagree, or I think you're lying, or whatever it is.
Yeah.
That's always been the problem.
Yes. No, that I can see how that is that very much matters. It's always as someone who has never worked for a big corporate because I would never be hired by them. I always find it interesting when I get to talk to somebody who's been in that environment to see, what the differences are and all that sort of thing.
From a personal standpoint, again, it wasn't like I came from a very blue collar family, so it's not like I was surrounded by entrepreneurs. I didn't even know how to spell the word entrepreneur. Never mind say that I was one. I just worked hard because I wanted some money in my pocket so I can go buy some of the stuff I wanted. Um, when dealing with corporate America, the biggest problem is, and it's so funny. I was just having a conversation with somebody here, and I said I knew the day I wasn't right for corporate America when I had a meeting to discuss the meeting we were about to have. And, 7, 8 people around the table talking about what we're going to talk about in the next hour. It's like, guys, can't we just wait till we get to that meeting? It seems like, kind of silly. So, but again, it's, hey, let's fill the calendar and let's, walk through our day. And so some people like that, some people don't mind it. And God bless them. I personally, at this stage and up, for 15 years now, I can't be employee 10,604. I just can't do it.
Yeah, it's I being a deeply creative person, we kind of get filtered out at the bottom. And so we don't tend to last very long in those environments, and we go off and do other things. I didn't even get that far. I just immediately went off and did something else. Um so that yes, I so I, again I but I just always find it fascinating people that worked in those environments and what it was like and what they what their opinion about it all it is and all this sort of thing. So now what do you think is the like in terms of selling this chocolate, what's been your biggest challenge with the American consumer?
I think the biggest challenge is the history of healthier, again, more, smart, indulgent options. A lot of times you'll eat something and you'd rather eat the package it came in because
Hmm.
it's terrible, And so I think that's probably been the biggest hurdle is for folks to try us and go, oh wow, you know what? I really don't need that refined sugar. It's because they're used to a chocolate bar with 60% sugar, which is horrendous. But I think probably that's been the biggest hurdle is just consumers taking the time. And we've got an amazing marketing group that's all they work on all day long, 5 days a week is just ways to let people try red. We've done everything from,
Yeah.
giveaways to, sampling programs we've done throughout the US.
Yeah, I think one of the things that either you love or hate about European chocolate, especially but food in general, is unlike us, they have not packed everything with sugar. So everything in Europe is much less sweet. Now I love it. It's fantastic. It's great. Um and because when I used to be a power lifter and so I didn't do sugar or soda or anything for 10 years and all this sort of thing. And so like Europe,
Right.
it was great because everything was so much less sweet and there was so much less sugar. Um do you find American tastes are open to something a little less sweet, or are people still looking to be clonked over the head with sugar?
Well, it's a good question. And I actually find that as we move along, American consumers are getting wider palettes, we'll say at that. And I think that has a lot to do with what's on TV today. And, even, when watching on, YouTube or wherever you watch, there are just people are opening up saying, oh, wow, this is interesting. And, whether it be different sauces and different combinations. And you're right, European chocolate is much different than American chocolate. And from a basic understanding, what I tell folks is think of European chocolate like a red wine. We are our milk chocolate with hazelnut and macadamia. It's not a nut cluster. That's not what it's about. The coca is that base, that body, just like you have in wine. And then the hazelnut and macadamia are like the different notes that you have in a red wine. Oaky, citrus, so on and so forth. So, and that's the idea is to just enjoy it. Let your palate enjoy the different flavors, enjoy the different combinations. Where, as opposed to ramming it down your throat with 187 grams of sugar, you
No,
know?
no, certainly. Yeah, that's certainly. I think that's I was it's just kind of so the let's talk about the line of things. So we have the milk chocolate, the white chocolate, which are the two I ate, and then there's like a 40% and a 30%, and then there's an ultra super dark chocolate that I don't dare open because I'll die of the bitter. But so
I
what tell us about all the products you guys offer.
So we actually have, as you were saying, we've got milk chocolate was is our most popular flavor here in the US. Then you've got milk chocolate with hazelnut and macadamia. Then you've got your dark chocolate. You've got your extra dark chocolate, and then you've got your dark chocolate with orange and almond. And then our newest lineup is actually, so we as a company, we hold 11 global patents. And our 11th patent is actually the caramelized white chocolate that you mentioned, which we call blonde. It's our red blonde. And what we've done is we've taken a white cocoa base and we've poured in our caramel. Now you think about caramel. Caramel is sugar. We don't use sugar. So what we've done is we've taken milk from Holstein cows. We whip it at a certain speed for a certain temperature. We pull the natural sugars that are in it, and we take that caramel that we call caramel, and we pour it in the white cocoa base, and that's how we get the blonde look of it. There's nothing, nothing like it in the United States, and there won't be because we hold a global patent on it.
I mean, yes, and it is kind of remarkably delicious and the right amount of sweet and all that type of thing. And I did tear into that one pretty fast. And
Good,
so it was,
good.
yeah, it was quite good. So when it comes to marketing, I used to work in marketing for small and medium-sized businesses. What
Mhm.
have been your marketing challenges to get this going in the American market besides all your sampling trials and all this type of thing, but
Yeah.
how else has that gone?
So, the biggest change that we have seen is really how do you deliver the message and how do you deliver it in a very succinct manner? That has really changed from pre-COVID to post-COVID. Because if you think about pre-COVID, the shopping experience is what we call it. People would go into the store and they would walk the aisles and see what's new and different things, like you said, the different variations of flavors and those kind of things. Well, if you go to, any store now, it went from 2 spaces out front to 10 spaces out front for delivery and for curbside pickup. And so what's happening is many of the consumers
I have
are
personally become
making the
addicted to
decision.
Amazon Fresh.
Okay.
This summer, I
So
went to a grocery store in upstate New York and realized I hadn't been in a grocery store in 2 years. And so I'm kind of
I
like,
know.
huh, yeah, I forgot we used to do this all the time. And yeah,
We
and
do,
now
we
I'm
do.
just, yeah, now the groceries just come to me. So
And you're like, a lot of folks are just like you. So, it's getting that message delivered to them earlier than usual and allowing them to make that decision. Does it fit their journey? Does it fit their lifestyle? And anything, and again, whether you're consumer packaged goods, consulting, whatever it is, the idea being is what is the value that you bring to me as the consumer? So when I say value, it could be something as simple as a price value, but also value is from a health perspective, from a personal perspective, from a social conscious perspective. There's dozens of ways. What's valuable to me may be completely different for yourself. And if I line up 10 people, we may have 7 people that have a different value proposition. So what we like to do is we make sure that we'll never change our value proposition. We know what we're about, and we want to find like-minded individuals, people that say, yeah, I get what you're doing. I agree with what you're doing. And I know it's working. And I'll tell you why I know it's working. So we as a company, there are certain things that we do that as the leader, I've chosen that I want this organization to do. And one of them is that we actually, once a quarter, we actually pick a charity. We had the American Cancer Society and others. And what we do is anybody who comes on, you don't have to even buy product. You can just donate. We match all donations. It's that simple. And so we did it the first month, and I remember sitting down with the team, and it was a group that actually is helping us in the back end so that we do it right and get the money and so on and so forth. And so when we were sitting there talking to them, I said, guys, I don't know if we're successful or not. I don't know, what it was. And they said, well, Glenn, we're going to give you 2 numbers and you'll figure out how it's successful. I said, okay. They said the average when an organization does this, and especially when it's like e-commerce online kind of thing, they'll see about 3% of the people will actually give to that charity. I was like, okay. And they said, you guys came in at 29%. I said, "Really?" I said, "That's an interesting difference." I said, "It's an extremely interesting difference. What that means is people believe in what you're saying and people are agreeing with it." And that makes you feel good because again, we're not a transactional company. I'm not going to sell 50 million bars this week. That's not what we're about. We call everybody who buys Red part of the Red family. That's not a marketing scam. It's not a marketing scam. My statement all the time is the same. I don't have a boss. I've got 1.3 million bosses. in any given week because we're constantly getting emails and texts and phone calls of people wanting to talk to us. And you know what? We talk to them because I think it's important.
No, I think the part of that success is kind of that's how it goes now. The old fashioned sort of out of touch, top down, you know, you'll take how we give it to you is long gone.
Yeah.
Sort of
Or
thing.
this is our flavor of the week. We read about this in the news and it looks big and popular. So we're going to do it this week now, too. And that's a line of
Yeah.
BS, too. So you're going to see a lot of people like that. We will do what we feel is right for the Red organization and what we believe in. And we're going to do that for as long as I'm sitting in this chair. And I know the next person that comes in and takes over is going to feel the same way because it's in our DNA. It's in our DNA. The blonde we were just talking about, it took us 2 years to get that right. I could have come out with something that nobody ever tried in 4 months once we figured out, our patented technology. Once I figured that out, we could have thrown something together and been done, but we knew it wasn't what we wanted. And I'd rather wait. I'd rather wait. We've got a vegan lineup we're coming out, which is certified vegan. It's actually it's milk. It's oat. We use oat milk as our base for our milk chocolate, which I think you'll like. And the reason I say I think you'll like is because even if you're not a vegan, again, I've handed this out to many different people and haven't told them it was vegan, and they try and went, yeah, that's good milk, European milk chocolate. I'm like, that's vegan European chocolate. I'm like, no way. There's no way there's not dairy in here. I'm like, yeah,
Yes. Well,
that's the that's
you're
our
sure to do it well around here. We have lots of vegans. So look for increased sales in this in the greater Seattle market. And Portland too. Everything down there has to be all, vegan, free range, all this sort of thing. Um
our chocolate is free range. We let it just run wherever it wants to.
Yes, wherever it's going. Um, it's yes, no, I have this joke bit about when Trump wanted to put missiles on the West Coast to defend against North Korea. I'm like, you can't just bring that out here to Oregon and do that. We're going to ask questions. Is it non-GMO? Is it free range? Was it well cared for? Like, was the missile built in a sustainable way? Like, we're going to have questions. You just can't show up with that stuff around here. Like,
Oh, that's
it's
good.
so your chocolate will do very well because that's the standards we keep around here.
I love that. I love that. That's good.
Um, yeah, it's quite a thing. Well, now when it comes to selling chocolate, that's a very I was thinking of this a few minutes ago. That's a very saturated market. You have big players running around, even
Mhm.
just in like your other European friends, much less the American heavyweights like, Hershey and Mars and all that
Yep.
type of thing. How does a company like you keep up with the Hershey's and Mars of the world?
So what we do, we don't try and keep up with them because what they're doing, we're not interested in. What we do is we're true to ourselves. And what we do is as long as we can get our message out to the consumers that it resonates with, we're more than happy for. You know, when I'll give you an example that a lot of people would never talk about, but again, I'm transparent. So we know for a fact that when people buy our products, 80% of the time, it's actually 78% to get the exact number. 78% of the time, they're going to come back and buy us again within 4 weeks. 22% aren't. So if you think about it, I'd love to say, we're great for everybody and everybody should eat this. But we're not. Some people try to go, well, I'm going to go back to what I want, or I still don't like chocolate, or whatever their reason is. And the other 80% stay with us and buy us. So, from a stickiness, from when people are trying our products, I, I'm okay with 8 out of 10. I'm okay because I can't please everybody. And if I tried to, it'd be an absolute failure because I'd try to please everybody and you please nobody, one of those things. So, we
Yeah.
know that 8 out of 10 that try us are going to like us.
Yeah, well, and there's a lot of iconic brands that I think go down that pathway. Apple, I think, being kind of the banner child for, they make a lot of decisions about how it is, and people are kind of like, oh, well, why don't they do this and why don't they do that? I said, Apple doesn't want everybody as their customer. They're not
No.
marketing to everybody, not by far. They have a very specific portion of the market that they go after, and they're quite happy to let Google have the rest. And if you want to know why they're so happy, you should go look at the balance sheets between Alphabet and Apple, and you'll quickly find out why Apple's quite happy to let Android have the bulk of the market. And all this stuff because they go after, there's a very specific customer they're going after.
Yeah,
And
no,
they
absolutely.
don't want to be for everybody,
No,
you know.
it's not like we're trying to be disrespectful. It's just that we know we're not for everybody, and we're okay with that. We'd love for everybody to come join us and follow us on our journey, but we understand if they don't want to, and we respect that. That's the great thing. We all have choices, so make the choice that's right for you, and we're going to make the choice that's right for us.
Yeah, yeah. So what do you think is the most common type of who's carrying red chocolate? Where what type of stores are you in the most? Because I'll say this is not great news for your marketing department. I had never heard of you before I booked you. I don't I'm sure I'm not the target demographic. Like no one's marketing chocolate to mid-30s black dudes. I'm not the demographic. But like where are you guys at mostly?
So we are in about 10,000 retail stores across the country. So we're in, folks, like the entire Kroger banner. So up in your neck of the woods would be QFC and Fred Meyer, and we're in dozens and dozens of retailers. What I tell people all the time is if you go to our website, which is red-chocolate.com, click on the store locator list, type in your zip code, you'll find us. And if, like I said, if for some reason you're in some crazy spot where we don't happen to be, you can buy us right online right there. So we make it really easy for people, really easy.
No, no,
So
that's excellent. Yeah. No, that's perfect. Well, see, here's the problem. Can I tell you I have not been in a QFC or a Fred Meyer in a hot minute, so I'm gonna have to go track you down now.
I love it. Nah,
Yes,
just you know what?
yeah.
Send me a text. We'll get it to you. Don't worry about it.
So
And
it's
we'll be quicker than Amazon, I promise.
yes, it did arrive quite quickly. I was quite surprised. Um about that. It was yeah, but I'll have to go and see it on the shelf. No, that's quite remarkable. That's quite remarkable. It's there's you said you've been in the food business a long time. What
Well,
makes chocolate different than the other channels you've been in?
I would say the biggest difference is there's a couple big differences that I would say are kind of equal. One of them is when I go to a party and people ask me what I do for a living, I usually just say they call me Willy Wonka. And people are like, "Ah, Willy Wonka." And so then it,
Mhm.
starts the conversation, and it's invariably that's got to be one of the coolest jobs. You're in a chocolate company. Are you surrounded by chocolate? I'm like, am I surrounded by chocolate? Am I surrounded by chocolate? I've got
Yes.
chocolate everywhere. I am surrounded by chocolate. I get to try chocolate all day long, and I get to try some of the greatest chocolate. Even when it's my own, I still love it. I'm not that guy who owns a shop and then says I don't want to shop here because I'm around it all the time. It's the only chocolate I eat. So from a personal, it's fun and it that way. From a business standpoint, what I love about it, I guess, is the passion that consumers have, because there aren't a lot of people that don't eat chocolate. Yes, there are some. Of course, there are some, but there aren't many. And those that do are very passionate about what it is. We're the number one. I'm going to tell you a quick story. So we're the number one chocolate sold on the Home Shopping Network. I'm on probably about every 4 or 5 weeks we go on, and a great group of people. I love the Home Shopping Network. You're just a wonderful group of people to work with. And so I went on, and we're talking about Red and the history, and I happen to mention, hey, if anybody wants to ask a question, I'm always available, and I am. Now you can go on our website. My picture's there, sadly, but my picture's there. Click on it, and it sends me a note. And so I happen to mention that in passing, and then we were, going through our talk and doing everything, and we finished our segment. And of course, my phone is off during the segment, so I turn it back on. I look over, and it's my phone from one of the folks that works here, and says, "Hey, you got a message." And so I listen to the message, and it's a woman. Her name is Kate. I still remember her name. And it says, "Hey, Kate, Glenn, this is Kate. Can you give me a call?" "Well, okay, sure." So I go up, "Hey, Kate, it's Glenn Gardone. How can I help you?" She goes, "This isn't the Glenn Gardone that was just on TV." I'm like, "Yeah, Kate, this is Glenn. How can I help you?" She said, "I just want to let you know I just lost a bet." I said, "What do you mean, Kate?" She said, "You said on TV that you talk to everybody." Well, I didn't believe it. I bet my girlfriend my red chocolate that I bought, that there's no way you're ever going to call me back. And it's like, no, Kate, of course I'm going to call you back. Let's talk. And so we had this great conversation. And she was telling me about how, she used to be a crazy chocolate eater, but then she had to really throttle it back because of her health. And now she found red, and she just feels like she can do what she wants to do with chocolate again and enjoy it. And yet she doesn't have to worry about it from the health aspect. So, when you start to build those connections just across the country and you get to have those stories as memories, it's so much fun. It's so much fun. I couldn't sit in front of a computer and, just type in numbers all day. I couldn't do it.
No, I think you're the perfect personality for this sort of thing. I think that's fantastic, and it's quite lovely. Well, this is the part of the show where we do plugs. Let us know where people can find you and get in touch and buy red chocolate.
So to meet with me, you can always find me, from a business perspective on LinkedIn. There's only one Glenn Gardone, sadly, and sadly because there's at least one. But you can always find me there. But the best way to find out about me, talk to me, find out about Red, go to our website at red-chocolate.com. You're going to learn about the history of chocolate. We have something called the Chef Series, so you can see how to cook with chocolate. I know we've got some Australian desserts. We've got some American desserts. I know they got a beautiful mole sauce. So we've got different ways to do that. And it's just a way for you to learn about Red. I love when people find out about the Red story, because people learn about it and go, oh, that's pretty cool. All right, I get it. That's pretty cool. And so that's probably the best way to find out all about us.
Excellent. Well, thank you for coming on the Cameron Journal podcast.
Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it, Cameron. I really do.
That's all for this episode of the Cameron Journal podcast. Thank you so much for listening. Visit us online at CameronJournal.com. We're on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, and I love to talk to my followers and listeners, so please feel free to get us on social media at Cameron Cowan on Twitter, and we'll see you next time on the Cameron Journal podcast.